I have no idea how I just mistook books for pillows. Anyways, everybody, welcome. This is episode number 19 of the NutrientHAF Project podcast. We're quickly closing in on the majestic number 20, which we've got some good ones in the podcast funnel, so to speak. But today is episode 19, before we get to 20. Today we are doing our first ever Q&A session. So we've got 10 or 11, I think it's 11 questions from friends and Facebook peoples and whoever's and whatnot. So we got a couple anonymous ones in there too. So today we are some of the questions we're going to be talking about, like the effects of the different macronutrients on your health. We're going to talk about proper like pre and post workout, like nutrition and training. We're going to talk about the effects of alcohol on your health. We're also even going to get into our top 5 supplements for muscle building, top 5 supplements for fat loss, and just our overall kind of, well, my kind of top 5 favorite supplements that might not have to do with either one of those things. So before we get into that, I guess I should start. My name is Andrew Frisch. This is my beautiful wife,
Holly Frisch,
and we are Nutrient Health and Fitness. The website is nutrient-health.com. Again, nutrient-health.com. If you have any questions and you want to send them in, please hit us up at nutrienthaf@gmail.com. Holly, what was that?
nutrienthaf@gmail.com.
So that's nutrienthaf, like healthy as, so or healthy, or Holly and Drew Frisch. Anyways, nutrienthaf@gmail.com. You get the picture. Also, if anything in today's episode proves beneficial, if it helps you, please, guys, like, share this with a friend. We're trying to grow this bad boy. We do see the growth, so it's exciting. It's kind of like cool to open up the app and see like more and more people listening to this. So thank you to those that are sharing it. And if you get anything from this, share it with a friend, post it, put it on the interwebs, tag us on Facebook and Instagram at nutrient_official. And also, if you could, we would love it. You could do this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify now. You can go in there and give us a little 5-star review, ratings. You know, we appreciate all of that. So this is all from the passion and the goodness of our own heart. So we appreciate every little bit. All right, with that, Holly, do you have any important announcements?
I don't think so, no.
All right, I just wanted to put you on the spot. So let's get rolling. So first and foremost, Mike has a question. Some of these have been like a couple weeks waiting, and I haven't been able to get to them. That's why I wanted to do kind of a Q&A episode and knock out a bunch of these. So Mike has a couple questions. First and foremost, he is asking, he basically wants to understand the effects of each macronutrient on our health. So the macronutrients, carbs, fats, proteins. That alone could be an entire hour, 2-hour, 3-hour episode, but to keep it kind of short and simple and sweet, as short and sweet as I could go with it. Proteins, I'm going to break this down by proteins, then carbs, then fats. So proteins, there are about 500 known amino acids, but humans, we only need about 21 of them. And 9 of those are essential. They're essential meaning that we don't get them, like we can't make them ourselves, so we have to get them from our diet. So branched chain amino acids are really big right now, or have been really big for a while, but I always try to direct people more towards essential amino acids, not just branched chain, because if you get essential amino acids, you are getting those 3 branched chain amino acids in there already. Before I dive into what the essentials are, protein is basically, as far as like its impact on your health, protein is going to help you rebuild tissue, rebuild muscle, rebuild connective tissue. Protein is also used, amino acids rather, are used for enzymes, and without enzymes, worky. So like enzymes, anything in your body that ends with ASE is an enzyme. So the one that comes to mind as I say that is lactase, which is an enzyme that helps you break down lactose. So if you don't produce lactase, then you're going to be lactose intolerant, right? But you have enzymes. There's an enzyme called deiodinase, which cleaves off one of the iodine molecules from the thyroid hormone T4 to convert it to T3 to make it the active thyroid hormone. So proteins are, like I said, responsible for helping you rebuild that muscle tissue, but they're also responsible for enzymes, and they are also a precursor to many of your neurotransmitters. So this is bringing me back to the 9 essential amino acids. You can rewind this and pause it as much as you need to. So I'm just going to kind of knock these out. But the 9 essential amino acids, like if I could do this without looking at my list, the 9 essential amino acids are leucine, which is extremely important for muscle rebuilding and protein synthesis. So leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Then we've got lysine. We have phenylalanine. We have methionine. We've got tryptophan. We've got threonine. What one did I miss? Histidine, thank you.
This seems really good,
though.
So,
yeah, that's close. But, so like, for examples of how those translate to neurotransmitters, phenylalanine, I believe, I should have checked my science on this. I believe phenylalanine will eventually convert to dopamine. I could be wrong on that. It might be endorphins. But I know for sure tryptophan will convert eventually to serotonin, and serotonin then converts to melatonin. So if you're not getting adequate amounts of tryptophan through the diet, you're not giving your body the building blocks that it needs for serotonin, and that's going to impact you. Like if you have low serotonin levels, like that could be just kind of like overall sadness, just not feeling like your general kind of happy self. So and again, the phenylalanine, that if I'm correct in it converting to dopamine, which I'm pretty sure it does, then dopamine is that kind of like get up and go neurotransmitter. So long story stupidly short, proteins are important for enzymes, rebuilding tissue, and neurotransmitters. Carbohydrates are important, as I spit on my table. Carbohydrates are important for a number of reasons. They are obviously like fuel source for the body. If you are, this is popping up more and more and more, and this is one of the things that we're specializing in. If you're an individual who's working very hard, working out very hard, and trying to be in a calorie deficit, then you are probably reaching some level of stress. And if your stress is chronic, then your cortisol elevation is going to be out of whack and could also be chronic. Carbohydrates will help lower that cortisol. So that's where sometimes when people, they might initially have success by going on a low carb diet, but you need to have an exit strategy. You can't just go low carb all the time. Because if you are low carb all the time, that cortisol is more likely going to be elevated chronically. And again, that's a problem for a number of reasons, which is something that we'll get into on episode 20 when we talk more about stress. So carbohydrates will help lower cortisol. If you just feel like anxious, you have a hard time sleeping, you find yourself being like agitated and angry, kind of that wired and tired feeling at night, chances are your cortisol is high. Having some carbohydrates will help reduce that. Carbohydrates in the body will become glucose, and the stored form of glucose is glycogen. So why is that important? Because in the body, glycogen is stored in your liver and in your muscles. And the liver glycogen is used as kind of like, think of it like as an emergency drip. So it's meant to support you and supply you in between meals and like while you're sleeping. So if you've ever woken up in the middle of the night like starving, hungry, I mean, it could be a number of reasons, but like when I've done those extended fasts, the 3 days and 5 day fasts, my liver glycogen was depleted because I wasn't eating, and sleep kind of definitely started to suffer after the first day or two. So liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, those are like muscle glycogen is what's used for energy like locally in that muscle. So carbohydrates are also super important as far as like fiber, and fiber's impact not just on your digestive system but on your gut health as well. So that is critically important, and again could be an episode in and of itself. So I would, and I'm definitely glazing over things here even though it might not sound like it, but like carbohydrates, lowering cortisol, glycogen levels for, you know, for just functioning and performance, and then fiber's impact on your gut health. Lastly, fats. So fats, thank you dear, fats also an energy source, but they are also backbones for many of your hormones. They help with the absorption of vitamins and minerals that are fat soluble, right? Not all of them are, but the ones that are fat soluble. They also help with like healthy nerve signaling. So if you're not getting adequate fat, like that insulation around the nerves is going to suffer from it. Brain health is super important fats are super important for brain health. even like your joints and skin and hair. That's all kind of reliant on an adequate amount of fats coming in. And just like you have an essential group of proteins, you also have essential fatty acids. And a little bit of a deep dive here, but like, so essential fatty acids, you're going to look at like some of the omega-3s. One is ALA, or alpha linolenic acid. You can get that from like flax seeds, chia seeds. It's more of like a plant-based fatty acid. EPA, which is eicosapentaenoic acid. I said that way faster earlier. But EPA is really good for your cardiovascular system and heart health. And DHA, or docosahexaenoic acid. I just like saying the big words. Makes me feel smart. And DHA is generally going to come from seafoods, like, fatty or fish. Obviously, like fish oil. If you take fish oil, you're going to get EPA and DHA. And then there are omega-6s that are essential fatty acids. That's just LA, or linoleic acid. You're going to get that from vegetable oils and nuts and seeds. And there's a lot of information, or there has been a lot of information about how omega-6s are bad and you need to avoid them and you should just get omega-3s. That's not the case. Both of them are essential fatty acids, meaning you have to get them from the diet and your body needs them to come in from your diet. The problem when it comes to omega-6s is that most people just get way too many of the omega-6s from the vegetable oils that things are cooked in or baked in versus the omega-3s. So yeah, that super quick kind of ish breakdown of protein, carbs, and fats is the importance. Like I said, that could be an episode in and of itself, but this is the kind of stuff that I nerd out to. So if I go too deep for you, fast forward. I don't care. Mike had another really good question, which is, it's kind of a funny one, but one thing I've been stumped by is exactly how muscle is added or removed from a certain area. The Rock, for example, was huge when he wrestled, but has gotten more, quote, normal sized since he started acting. I know that's like a relative term, but I don't think anybody's ever called The Rock normal sized. How does that equation work? Is it possible to diminish fat in certain areas by building muscle there instead? How does the body know where to put the calories that come in to build muscle or fat? Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you as I sip.
Turn it over to me.
Okay. Existential crisis, I could tell. She was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. No, you're good. Sorry, I just had to get a sip. So you are on the next one though. I got you. So, sorry. Love you. Okay, so I'm going to take this kind of little by little. The Rock, getting normal size. I obviously I think he's open about this too, like the steroid usage, right? Like, because he had that movie that he was in with Mark Wahlberg and Anthony Mackie, Pain and Gain. He was real open about like having to put on more size for that. But so as far as like how is muscle added or removed from a certain area, like how does that equation work? In simplest terms, it's basically like that. The whole like specific adaptation to impose demand. So basically, like they've done studies, a real interesting study a while back. I think it was Andy Galpin that did this, and I might be bastardizing the details of it, but it was like they had people doing like shrugs, right? So working like the trap muscles up by the neck. They had them doing shrugs, but not working their hamstrings, and they showed that like the hamstring muscles, because they weren't being worked, like atrophied. They started to break down, and the shrug muscles, like your traps, started to grow because they were working them. So basically specific adaptations to impose demand. So like the thing you do and you put resistance on, you're telling your body, hey, this thing needs to be stronger. So your body's like, got it, needs to be stronger, right? And this is where like older people, as they're like starting to suffer from like osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, like one of the things they can do is start resistance training if they're not already, because that's putting the demand of be stronger, be more resilient, not only on the muscles, but also on the bones, right? Those muscles are pulling on the bones as they're doing those exercises and then causing those bones to become, dense, like more dense. So that's how the equation works basically. Like if you go into a gym and you start doing barbell squats, you're obviously going to grow your legs, but you're not going to get a whole lot of like chest and pec development from squatting. If you started bench pressing, you're obviously going to get a lot of pec development and you might get some leg development if you're like really hardly like pushing your feet and your glutes, what you should be if you're bench pressing. But if you're actively pushing your legs into the ground, you might develop a little bit of something there. But your body's going to get really good at what you do, right? So like one of the things I'm trying to do is grow my arms more. So instead of doing arms once a week, I'm hitting arms like 3 or 4 times a week and just doing like less volume at each workout. So I'm doing more frequency, more overall stimulation to those muscles, and it's working. So the next one on here, is it possible to diminish fat in certain areas by building muscle there instead? This is where the people will like flame your Facebook page or your Instagram page in a minute if you say the wrong thing. Generally, like if I were to ask you, spot reducing, is spot reducing capable or a possibility? Can you spot reduce your body?
No.
So, and I agree with that to a degree. So what I mean by that is like, I always look at it,
I think how most people think of it. No,
right.
You can't.
Right. And this is where if you say like you can spot reduce, the internet's going to be like, "What? We got one." Like and they're going to come after you. I don't think that someone who's at 40 or 50 pounds of weight to lose and like they don't have definition anywhere in their body, they're not going to be able to go in and just work their abs for the next 6 months and walk out of there with a 6-pack, right? That's not the way it works. But they're like Andrew Huberman has talked about one of the ways to improve fat loss is by improving the innervation of the muscle tissue in that area. So what does that mean? Basically, like if you start working out, and let's say you're doing like a tricep press down, and for new trainees, when I was working with people, they would say like, I don't really feel it in the tricep muscle. It's because like they haven't done it very much, so they don't have a very good mind muscle connection. The more you do it, and if you're doing it like slow reps and you're doing isometrics where you're holding it and you're trying to focus on the flex and the feeling of the muscles, then you're going to improve the innervation of the muscle. Again, you're telling your body, hey, this muscle needs to be worked, it needs to be stronger, it needs to be more active. Then you'll have a better ability to recruit that muscle quicker. There is a suggestion that in doing that, by improving that innervation of the muscle, it will then improve utilization of that fuel source, like localized to the muscle. So whether that's directly spot reducing or not, I don't know, but it makes sense to me. Like if you want more defined triceps, work your triceps more. I mean, that's, so what degree is that spot reducing or not? That's kind of up for you to decide. The other thing is too, like this is a recurring theme throughout this episode and every episode is like, just because there's not current science there doesn't mean it's a complete impossibility. So science is a good indicator, but it's not the one and only thing. So, and then the last question on my kind of like 3-pack or 4-pack here is how does the body know where to put the calories that come in to build muscle or fat? This goes back to the carbohydrates being glycogen. So you thought I was just doing a deep dive for nothing. Again, liver and muscle glycogen. So if you have if your liver and your muscle glycogen, think of them as like fuel tanks, right? If those fuel tanks are depleted, then the food coming in should go to refill those tanks, because your body knows that like it needs to have, again, this is all like in the scope of a healthy individual, things are working as they should, right? When you start getting disease states and diabetes and metabolic syndromes and hormones out of whack, things start to change because now it's just survival, not optimal health. But if those liver glycogen stores, if the muscle glycogen or muckle, if the liver glycogen and muscle glycogen, this is where I need people to edit the podcast for me because I do not have the time. If those stores are empty when you eat, those fuels that you're eating should go to refill those glycogen stores. So that would be like, let's say you've done a hard workout and you've lifted some weights and you've not only depleted muscle glycogen, but you've also done like the trauma to the muscle to encourage it to get stronger and to rebuild. Then the fuel that you're eating is going to refill that muscle glycogen and going to go into protein synthesis to rebuild the muscles that you just worked. If, on the other hand, you have not worked out and, the muscle glycogen is full, the liver glycogen is full, then the body's basically going to say, like, these fuel stores are full. We need to take this extra fuel and put it somewhere else, i.e., either filling up empty fat cells or creating new fat cells. So that would be like, how does the body know where? And this will come back here towards one of the last anonymous questions as well. All right, so let's continue on. Jen had a good question that I think she asked a couple weeks ago, and I don't think I put it in an episode when I said I was going to, but she said, we live pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to let you read these at least, because that way it's not me talking the whole time. What did Jen have to ask? Son of a bitch. Why? I should have been doing this from the start. So it's not like 30 minutes of me talking.
Jen said, we live pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. I buy groceries about every 2 weeks. Fresh veggies and good cuts of meat are not always available, or they don't last. What other suggestions do you have to help with that?
So, great question, Jen, and thank you, Holly. So, I'm really pissed at myself for not having you ask these. So, at least we only got 2, and it wasn't the very last one. So, but we're rolling with this from here on out. Every other question and answer episode we ever do, you're reading the questions. So, every 2 weeks, I don't think that's necessarily too bad. It's really going to depend on the food you cook, how you keep them as well. So I will say for us, and I just made a post yesterday on Facebook and Instagram too, I think, maybe. I don't know. Either way, Facebook for sure. About all the foods I cooked. And it's, a bunch of like steamed cabbage, a bunch of sweet potatoes, chicken, turkey, beef and bison, like all of this stuff. When I cook those foods, I put them in Tupperware containers, and I don't let them sit out until they're like room temperature, but I let them cool for just a little bit. I don't like, if you ever cook turkey or beef or anything, and you like set it in the container and then put it in the fridge, like it kind of does that like congeal, like nasty, like
clear gel.
Yeah, like with chicken and turkey, it's like it's like poultry gel, and then with like beef and bison, it's like the fat, like the grease, kind of like congeals. I will set those. Any kind of meat that is potentially going to have that fat or gel or grease or whatever it is. I put it in the container, and then I slightly elevate it so that all kind of comes down to one end of it, and then I, with the lid holding the meat in there, I drain those out just to get that out. I don't know if that has any effect on it actually staying better longer or not, but it definitely cuts down on the chicken gel. Nobody's like, did you have some good chicken gel yesterday? I sure did. That chicken gel hit the spot. But so I let things sit out just a little bit to kind of cool down before I put them in the fridge, and then all of our containers are like airtight. And I make sure to, like, as I'm shutting them, to pull out all of the air. I will say, as far as like 2 weeks, all of those meats for sure at least like 7 to 10 days. I mean, I've had chicken that's like 2.5 weeks and it's still good. I would just like smell the stuff if it doesn't smell that good. Fish does not seem to keep very long, so, and neither one of us are really big seafood people, so we don't do a lot of seafood anyways. But fish definitely does not seem to keep. Beans are another one that don't seem to keep very well for very long. They also seem to take a lot longer. Maybe I'm just not cooking the beans properly, but so our beans are pretty much, I do like organic canned refried beans, just easier to digest, and it's still getting us the beans. But other than that, like all of the different vegetables, I mean the steamed cabbages, the California blends, everything that I cook up, for the most part, I mean it keeps forever. It wouldn't hurt, like I know some raw vegetables, like it wouldn't hurt to let them breathe once in a while, right? Like literally just take it out, kind of open it up, because I'm speaking out of turn on this one, but I think it's like broccolis and cauliflowers, like as they're aging in the fridge, I feel like they're letting off sulfur, which is where they kind of start to stink, and you want to like let it kind of aerate once in a while. Somebody in the comments or listening to this, please correct me on that. But I would say basically, if you're cooking any kind of poultry, any kind of red meats, let it cool a little bit, airtight container, put it in the fridge. Most vegetables, again, are going to cook, that you cook are going to keep for 7-10 days, and should make it 2 weeks. But yeah.
Also, if that doesn't work for you for whatever reason, like obviously, like the produce section would be the best, but like
right.
frozen food section.
Yeah,
and that's you need to.
Yep, and that's huge. We actually, for whatever reason, I think it was just like the scarcity mindset of like, oh shit, it's COVID. But I definitely right around when like early 2020 when COVID was starting to hit, we pushed like heavy back into frozen vegetables. We still have those on hand, but I just prefer like cooking things and having them essentially like fresh and ready to go in the fridge. But we definitely do, like, as far as frozen vegetables, I know you're really big on like the green giant, like rice, cauliflower, and sweet potatoes. That's like crack for her.
We garlic herb.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's also like the green giant, like garlic and herb, and then there's a Tuscan broccoli that is pretty good too. So I've got some clients that I do meal preps for that love the Tuscan broccoli with chicken. So so frozen vegetables if you need to. But yeah, the meats definitely will. I mean, like 7 to 10 days easily. So. All right, what we got on the next one? Go one at a time on hers.
Okay. So Amy's first question was, how about what to eat before and after running?
So this is one that you can chime in on as well. I think it's a very individual topic, right? Like some people want food before they go for a run. Some people take like those goo packs and gel packs with them. I've always been... for almost any type of exercise, I prefer an empty stomach. I have gotten recently into, if I'm lifting, really as soon as I start to sweat, so like, 15, 20 minutes, and we've done the warm-up and we're going to start doing the heavy lifts, right about that time I'll start doing like a protein shake with carbs. But if I'm going out for a run, I want to be fasted. Like I just want an empty stomach, and this will come up again in one of the coming questions. But I just don't want much on my stomach. Now, granted, that means that I usually, if I'm going to run, it's earlier in the day. I'm not going to run later in the day, at least not always. If I am going to run, it might be like midday, and it's been a couple hours since I had any food, and I basically feel like I have an empty stomach. So as far as what to eat before and after, the one thing I will say, and this is, intensity level is going to be important here too, but you don't want to have the two F's. Basically, you don't want to have a lot of fat and you don't want to have a lot of fiber because those things are going to digest very slowly and they can cause a lot of like gastric distress, even if it's after the workout. Even if you're doing a fasted workout, the goal of after the workout should be to like recover as quickly as possible. So if you're lifting, you want to like initiate protein synthesis or like the repairing of the muscle tissue as quickly as possible. And if you're coming in from a run, it's important to again like refill those glycogen levels, because if you're just going like depleted for hours and hours and hours after the workout and you're not refilling those fuel stores, then you're going to be more likely to be, like, at least in my experience, you're going to be more likely to be sore longer, and kind of a more intense soreness as well. So,
as far as eating before working out, for me, like, I'm fine eating and then lifting weights. Like, I can eat an hour before, eat like a half cup of oatmeal and protein, and like, I'm usually hungry before we start working out again. Yep. That's just how I work. But as far as cardio, I tend to like that empty stomach as well. Yeah. Just like the jostling when you're running or on a machine just makes me kind of nauseous. So.
Well, and you bring up a good point too, because that, again, just the individual variability. Like I said, I don't like having a whole lot on my stomach when I lift. At most, earlier in the day, I'll do protein shakes and carbs, whereas like she's like always hungry.
Always.
I mean, always. Like you could have a big meal before you go to bed and you wake up like starving. You've got like some kind of little gremlins in your stomach that are just like, but that's like just that variability. And then there are some people, I mean, like, think about it. If you can work out with food in your stomach and you're going to go in and do a good lifting session, which is what she did, like back 4 or 5 years ago, she would have a pretty good size, like carbs and protein meal, and then come into the gym. Granted, she'd be in there for like, sometimes 2 or 3 hours, not always, but sometimes 2 or 3 hours, but that's giving you fuel. And again, going back to Mike's question of like, how does the body know where to utilize that fuel? Well, if your body is going through and digesting fuel, as long as it's not like causing, stomach upset with the fibers and the fats, and like that could lead to like headache and nauseousness and everything. But if you're doing something like oatmeal or sweet potatoes or carbs or, quick digesting carbs and doing a workout, then in theory, like those nutrients are going to the muscles that you're working. So because your body is getting the stimulus of like, hey, these leg muscles in the case of a squat or back muscles in the case of a row are being worked. So we should probably shuttle the fuel that's coming through to those muscles. Right. So, but yeah, that's a good
question.
Yeah, question. I'm trying to think like a good differentiation to bring up, right? So, like, because I do think that I have no problem getting like lean and shredded. I mean, I can get diced up quick.
Eat a piece of broccoli and you're there.
Well, I mean, not even that. I'm just like, because I think part of it is like me working out fasted that puts that, cortisol is increased and puts the demand on my body to find alternative fuel sources. But like, I do have a hard time like putting on size and putting on muscle, and I think that part of that is because I just don't enjoy working out with a lot of fuel on my system, so in my stomach. So
alright. The second question from Amy is how to recover from muscle aches after training for the first time in a long time.
So part of that I answered in the first question, just as far as saying getting an easily digested source of protein and or carbohydrates. I would say both, ideally, because again, if you haven't been training, whether you've been training or not, after that hard workout, your body wants, like, the number one goal, and this is like from a guy named Charles Poliquin, rest in peace, but like his thing was like your number one goal as soon as you're done training is get cortisol down. Training raises your cortisol. So the first thing that you want to do is get that cortisol down to encourage recovery. So, and again, episode 20, we're going to talk more about stress and how it affects your weight loss goals or your muscle gaining goals. And that cortisol is central to a lot of that. So it's important to get something in as quickly as you can, and something that, again, is going to be easier on your stomach. She could do oatmeal, and oatmeal and protein won't bother me too much, but I feel like you have like this ironclad stomach, whereas I've got like, this little like bitch baby stomach. And even before like my 2 decades of like drugs and alcohol and all that, I remember being in like, middle school and high school and just having to really be mindful of what I ate because my stomach just never really did well with it. So nutrition, post-workout nutrition is huge. And that even going back to the essential amino acids, if you don't want to do a full-on whey protein shake, essential amino acids could be, especially that leucine, could be a really good way to start recovery from a workout. The other side of it is like physical things that you could do. Stretching and massage and encouraging blood flow into the muscles that you're working. So not necessarily full on static stretching everywhere. That's the next question. I was like, I knew there was something I wanted to talk about with static stretching. But like if say you go for a run or a walk or something like that, the muscles that you're working, you want to stretch them to like kind of lengthen them, right? But you also want to do like more mobility and flexibility based stuff. So in terms of, okay, so let's say like just keep it simple, going for a walk. If you walk, I know if I walk for 10,000 plus steps in a day, my calves are probably going to be tight, my hamstrings are going to be tight, and like my hips, like that kind of like side ass back corner of my butt is going to get kind of tight, right? Like back, in your hips. So, and even like adductors, like your inner thigh, those will get a little tight on me. So those are the areas I'm going to stretch. So instead of just doing like a static calf stretch where I'm just like leaning into the wall and stretching my calf behind me, I'm going to like elevate my toes a little bit. And I have a slant board at home. If you don't have one, they're great. I would get one. But you could elevate your toes on a step or even just like lean into the wall so your feet are back behind you. But then I do movement. So I don't just hold that static stretch of the calves. I do a movement. So I'm up and down because there's some suggestion that a static stretch is going to like weaken the muscles and put unnecessary strain on the ligaments and tendons, whereas doing the movement, you're now encouraging blood flow into those areas. So, and if anybody wants to read more about this, Katy Bowman, Katy Bowman, has a really good book called Move Your DNA. It's basically about that, where it's like one of the best ways if you have, joint pain, knee pain, ankle pain, hip pain, shoulders, elbows, knee bones. Anyways, if you have any kind of pain, like instead of static stretching, which is kind of like wringing out the sponge, you want to do like movement based things, like I just said with the calf stretch, right? Or if you can imagine getting into a deep lunge position, even if you need to hold on to something to kind of get into that position, but instead of like just holding that lunge stretch position, like pulsing your hips up and down slowly, right? And you'll get better at it in those connective tissues, because like what you're doing when you're in that end range and moving is telling your body, like, not just like, hey, I need to stretch this and put that ligament and tendon underneath load. You're telling the body, I need to be functional in that end range, and you're encouraging blood flow in there. And that blood flow that comes in now, instead of just wringing out the sponge, you're wringing out the sponge and then putting it into like, new dishwater. I guess this metaphor is falling apart, but like you're getting new nutrients into that sponge. So, and that's how you can then start to help heal joints and problematic like cartilage and areas.
But then also, like, in addition to stretching, just moving, like walking around or standing or whatever, because I know there's been times I've done a hard leg workout and then we had to go like travel 4 hours.
Yeah.
And we
That's
get in
always
the
fun.
car.
Leg day and then get in the car for 4 hours.
And by the time we got to my parents that one time, like I couldn't get up their stairs. I was hurting so much.
Yeah, because everything is just sitting there statically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like and that's the whole kind of like you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
I was gonna say move it or lose it. But so yeah, I mean that's you've gotta move. Do the mobility based stretches. A really good source for this on the internet is a guy named Knees Over Toes. His whole kind of strength training protocols are based around, like he'll tell you like he doesn't stretch. This guy's like one of the most mobile people I've ever seen, and he'll tell you he doesn't really stretch. He just incorporates stretching into his workouts. So doing things like the ATG split squat, search that one. Seated good mornings are awesome. That's quickly like client favorite exercises, and this is like clients who hate exercising. Like they love doing the seated good morning. So these are all ways to train your body in end ranges, and that's the seated good morning is something. If I do a lot of walking and my hips are tight, I come in and do like 2 sets of that seated good morning, I literally, like, it's brand new, everything is good to go. The only other thing I'll add on to that too is if you have any kind of like massage gun, which I mean I think I've talked about those in the past on the podcast, but if you have a massage gun, those are super useful just to again kind of encourage more blood flow. Again, I don't know where the science is on all of this, but again, sometimes anecdote will trump science. So, and I know I don't use a massage gun every day, but I feel like maybe once a week I just do a good like 30-minute session and just like kind of hit my whole body, and every single time the next morning I feel a lot better. So, all right.
And the last question from Amy is, how can I prepare before and after a workout? My new assistant talked about running a 5K and not training appropriately beforehand.
So this is where I wanted to say, as far as like static stretching, you don't want to do a lot of static stretching before a workout, unless it's very intelligent and very, very targeted to, the reason you don't want to do it is because when you static stretch, there's some suggestion that you are like lessening that muscle's ability to perform. So that would be like if you're going to go do a bench press, you don't want to stretch your pecs. You don't want to stretch your chest muscles because you're potentially reducing your chest's ability to press, right? What I would do I do in a bench press workout or an upper body like push workout is I'll do bench press with like dumbbells that are like 30 to 50% of the weight that I want to use, and I'll get into that full range. So I'll, like, as I come down, I think just big chest, really open up the chest and try and like retract my shoulder blades and pinch them just to where I can allow myself a big open range of motion with no pinching in the shoulders or anything like that. But I'm not going to static stretch anything. So if you're going to go kind of, because Amy's questions are kind of around doing a 5K and running, I would not do a static hamstring stretch. I would not do a static calf stretch because those muscles are important in running. So that would be like I would do that kind of lunge pulse up and down. I would do like ATG split squats. I would do that calf mobility.
Warming up your ankles.
Yep.
I do that because I have...
What do you do?
I warm up my ankles real
How?
good. Well, I'll do like circles. I'll do them like to the left and then to the right and then up and down. I think we both have kind of weak ankles. But
You call my ankles weak?
yeah. But then like if I don't, like we'll start out jogging and I'll just feel instant pains like shooting through my ankles. So I make sure to warm those up really good. And then also the crab stretch. Crab squat. If you do those seem to like really warm up my knees and hamstrings really good. Why are you making that face?
I was waiting. I don't have weak ankles. I got loose ankles. My ankles are loose. They're not weak. No, I'm kidding. But no, that like I remember. Thankfully, it hasn't happened for a long time. But do you remember how like I tore that like a partial tear of my calf muscle, and then for like 2 years after that, I'd feel good and be like, all right, I'm gonna be able to run again. And like sure as shit, anytime after like a week or two of like, okay, I feel like I can run again, I would start sprinting and be like, bam, I'd feel like that same thing would just trigger every time, and it'd feel like I was gonna like tear my calf muscle again. And I had to really, really, really pay attention to like getting that full range of motion, and knock on wood, I mean that hasn't happened for a couple years now, but yeah, you like if it comes to running, I would say get obviously your lower body really warmed up. The hips, the glutes, like doing glute bridges would be a really good one. Doing the seated good mornings, again, look that up. That would be a really good one. Calf mobility, like Holly's talking about, like ankle rolls, right? Just encouraging blood flow in those joints that you're going to be using. So, but that is,
difference.
yeah, that is a great question, though. All right, got some anonymous questions coming up.
Alrighty. So, what about losing extra skin after large amounts of weight loss?
That's the
Okay.
the notes for my questions or my answers. I mean, you can read the whole thing if you want to. It's all good. That was my notes. So So what about losing extra skin after large amounts of weight loss? Yeah, you're just like reading right on through it. Which, I mean, you should have. It's all right. So this is a tough question, right? So anybody that's like, I think basically what she was asking with this is, if you've lost large amounts of weight and you have that kind of extra skin that's just, I know it's annoying and you want it gone, you want it off of your body, what can you do about it? This is one of those things that I don't have a definitive answer. I can't say like this thing works for sure. What I can say is, and I have not personally nor professionally had any direct benefit from this. I do have one anecdote with the last one, but 3 things that I do suggest. There's some evidence suggesting that fasting will help, like especially extended fasts, because when you're fasting, your body needs nutrients, right? It still needs those amino acids, even if you're not getting them in. It still needs those fatty acids, even if you're not getting them in. And I don't know if this is how it works or not, but there's some evidence suggesting that like extended fasts after, I shouldn't even say evidence. I've heard ramblings on the underground of potentially fasting helping your body kind of eat away at the extra skin. Again, that sentence could be complete BS and maybe way off. I don't know, but that's something that I've heard people mention in the past, that fasting can help with bringing that like extra skin in. Part of it too that I didn't make notes of, but part of it is like age. So skin is still an organ, and if you have like healthy elastin, which is like one of the proteins that makes skin elastic, right? If you have healthy skin and you're younger, like it will tighten up over time. It's just not as quick as you want it to. But so fasting, collagen, there's some, I've heard some people mention that helps. The thing that I have had a tiny bit of, not personal experience, but professional experience, because I had a client a few years ago asking me about this, and going back to Charles Poliquin, I saw, again, rest in peace, but I saw him suggesting an herb called Gotu Kola, so GOTU space KOLA. He suggested that will help tighten up the skin. So the problem, the catch with it is that it's something that like takes months of taking it to, I guess, like get to a saturation point. I don't know. But it is something that he suggested, and this client, I recommended it to her, and after a couple months, she said that she did notice like things were tightening up a little bit. Nice added bonus, even if you weren't using it for that, Gotu Cola is a good kind of like brain supplement. It does, I think it encourages blood flow in the brain, so it does help with like memory, I believe. But this is one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, if you're older, and you're not comfortable with your own body, one, I would say if you've lost that weight and you have that extra skin, like fucking be proud of that, right? Like you kicked ass, you did that. That's a change that not many people can get to and not many people sustain. Like we talked about my wife here being, in the 5% of the world because she's kept the weight off after 5 years. But, if you absolutely have to get it off, like look at surgery. I mean, I can't even, I'm not even condoning that. I'm just saying I know that's an option that some people do. If you go that route, just please do your research on the doctor that you're going to, because there are some sketchy individuals out there. So, all right, next one.
What are some examples of a balling on a budget grocery list?
All right. And I'm gonna see if you understand this definition, because she was like, "What does that even mean?" I was like, "Balling on a budget? You don't know what that? So what's balling on a budget mean?"
So I learned this afternoon that apparently that means you look like you're rich, but you're really on a budget.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's probably a bad way of describing it. It's like you're just like, you don't have a lot of money, but like you're still trying to live a good life, right?
Okay.
Balling on a budget, right?
Okay.
So, and it basically like in the past when I've used it, back in like my 20s and 30s, like I'm balling on a budget, man. Like, hey, like I want to do this, but like, what's the most affordable option? So that's basically what Anonymous is asking here. What are examples of balling on a budget grocery list? So I would say this is where, even though I normally suggest like, hey, get organic vegetables as much as possible, get like grass-fed beefs and bison as much as possible, get organic free-range chickens and all that stuff's more expensive, right? Just period, point blank. So if you can't afford those extra bells and whistles, I guess, if you will, if you can't afford the grass-fed, like get normal. If you can't afford the free-range organic, et cetera, like just get what you can get.
That's what I did through my whole weight loss.
Yeah, so I don't, from a simple weight loss standpoint, I don't think that organic versus non-organic is going to be a massive thing unless your body is just like loaded with what am I thinking? Like xenoestrogen, xenobiotics. Like unless you're just like getting just so much exposure to pesticides and fungicides and herbicides and all that it is like a hormone disruptor, an endocrine disruptor. Like she just said, she lost 92, 93 pounds with never touching a single bit of organics. I think those things come into play more for someone that is older, because you were like 23, 24 when you lost that weight, 22, 23, something like that?
22.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah.
We got together when you was 23. But so, yeah. Sorry, I was like, just went off on a down memory lane with me and you. These are still good times now, but those were good times then too. But you can lose that weight without it, but if you're older and you have to walk that finer line of hormones, that's something to think about. But as far as balling on a budget, you can lose weight, you can feel good if you're not doing those things. But if you just notice that, like, I'm eating all of these things and weight's still not coming, do some blood work, look at especially your sex hormones, where are those at? Thyroid hormones as well, where are those at? Because that might be impacting it. The other thing, like I mentioned beans earlier, you can do really well just buying some like, keep it simple, right? So you got to drop the frills. Like when we go to the grocery store and it's like, what we got groceries the other day and it was $375, right? For 1 week's worth of groceries, $375. And like, she was in a good mood. And as I'm ringing things up, like I'm looking at her because I know, and like, she's just like, like I can like feel things tightening up.
Yeah.
I even asked her, like, when we checked out, I was like, how you feeling? She's like, oh, I'm okay. So that, like, drop the frilly stuff, right? So, like, we hit $370 probably because we had to get some things like, toothpaste and toilet paper that you don't normally get. But we also got, like, a couple bags of chips that are like $5 a bag because they're healthy chips. If you're balling on a budget, drop the chips, right? If you're balling on a budget, again, don't worry about the organics and grass feds. If you're balling on a budget, you can do really well with like buying like beans, like, 1 or 2 pound bags of beans and making them your damn self and getting cans of tuna, right? If I go back to my college days, it was like lots of canned tuna. Even getting a packet tuna was like a little bit of a luxury then because those are a little more expensive and you got a little less tuna. So I was like, I'm just getting the basic old canned albacore or bumblebee tuna. So if anybody gets my Ace Ventura reference on there, please let me know. But I'll have to show you that later so you understand what I'm talking about. Okay. Bumblebee tuna. But beans, tuna, keep it simple. I mean, even if you got to get like canned chicken, right? As disgusting as that is, do what you got to do. So that's really the best that you can do. Get if you need to do rice, right? Just get rice, cook rice. I mean, there are countries where people eat a lot of beans and rice and they do pretty good for themselves. So I think you're going to be better off doing non-organic vegetables and non-grass-fed, beef and non-free range chickens than going to McDonald's and getting something off the dollar menu, right? So, and hell, if that's what you got to do, I mean, do what you got to do, but like work to not be balling on a budget, basically. So, all right, next one.
Right.
This one's good.
So, supplements are a market like no other and are expensive. If you have to recommend a top 5 for gaining muscle and burning fat, what would they be? What are your top 5 supplements if you could only afford those 5?
All right, and as I was, so like Holly was like, you get so excited about this because that like when we start talking supplements, I mean when we start talking about any of this, if you can't tell, I enjoy this and I this is my passion, so this is why we record the podcast. But supplements especially, I love nerding out to this stuff. So
we went over to the cabinet where we have all of our supplements. It's just like, oh, what about this one and this one?
Yep.
It's like Christmas.
So, and she was like, no, that's one question. Top 5 from gaining muscle and burning fat, and your top 5 if you can only afford 5. And I'm like, no. Like, when I hear that, it's top 5 for gaining muscle. That's top 5 for burning fat. And then it's my top 5. So, and I even went top 6 because I just couldn't do 5. But so I would say, and this is by no way, shape, or form an exhaustive list, right? But I would say just kind of top of brain, top of mind, top 5 for muscle, king of it all, creatine, right? I mean, it's just the most, and creatine really could even be great for the mind too. I was talking to a client earlier about that. Also, fun fact, if anybody is worried about methylation status, creatine is great for helping out with your methylation status. But I don't know if anybody listening to the podcast is quite at that point. But so creatine is like, I think, the single most studied compound out there. It helps you improve performance. It can help increase DHT or dihydrotestosterone. So it basically aids recovery, right? I mean, like the list goes on and on and on as far as like the benefits of creatine. So creatine to me, hands down, number 1. Whey protein, I would consider that a supplement because that's a fairly common-ish complaint of like, I just can't hit my protein goals. Go get a whey protein shake, problem solved. I'm also really big on doing whey protein, not casein, but again, that comes back to the sensitive stomach issue. Casein tears my stomach up, so I avoid that at all costs. So creatine would be number 1, whey protein would be number 2, and then I have a couple ones here that maybe not everyone has heard of, but I'm just going to go in order on these. And also a lot of these supplements coming up, guys, one of the best websites, you can find some of these on Amazon, and this is going to come down to a lot of supplements that I recommend on this podcast or that I personally use and that Holly uses on this podcast. The best resource for these is called NootropicsDepot.com. So Nootropics is N-O-O, tropics, like tropic thunder or whatever. So nootropic, with an S, depot.com, nootropicsdepot.com. Awesome website, very good prices, very clear on what the supplements do, great standards and practices, just an awesome company, and they will ship the shit out quick to you. So these 3 are all for me at least, from Nootropics Depot. So the first one, and again, not going super deep on any of these because some of these have like some really cool, interesting things that they do. I'm just trying to keep it super simple to get this list. So the first one is something called beta ecdysterone. So beta, BETA, dash ecdysterone is ECDYSTERONE. Short and simple, enhances strength, right? Again, there's a lot more to it. It's actually a really interesting compound too, because most things that enhance strength are androgenic and they act on androgen receptors. Beta ecdysterone actually is estrogenic, and it maybe not estrogenic, but it interacts with the estrogen receptors, not the androgen receptors. We've both been using it for probably about 2 months now. I've definitely noticed strength gain, muscle gain from it as well. So beta ecdysterone. The other one, or another one, Cistanche tubulosa. I keep wanting to put an R and make that turbulosa, but it's just tubulosa. So Cistanche, CISTANCHE, and tubulosa, TUBULOSA. Cistanche boosts your luteinizing hormone, and that will then increase your testosterone. So rather than as a 44-year-old male, testosterone ain't what it used to be. So I didn't want to jump down the testosterone replacement therapy rabbit hole, because I know that's one that not everyone comes back out of. So Cistanche boosts luteinizing hormones, which then boosts testosterone. Like in men, it specifically tells the Leydig cells in your testes to increase more testosterone. I have noticed, because I started using Cistanche probably like 3 or 4 months ago, before I started using the beta ecdysterone. I noticed, and these are all, well, not all plant extracts. The beta ecdysterone is actually, I think, an insect extract of all things. But Cistanche, I noticed an improvement in like confidence, in motivation, and like these are things that increasing your testosterone will do. It'll increase your motivation. It'll increase your want and desire to do tough shit. And I've definitely noticed that. And even like she'll take Cistanche off and on throughout her menstrual cycle. I've even noticed it with her, whereas like she's like sometimes she just does not want to go to work. Like it makes it easier for her to like go and tackle that hard shit as well. So we got creatine, whey protein, beta ecdysterone, Cistanche tubulosa. The last one for muscle gain is epicatechin. So that's epicatechin. It's EPICATECHIN. This is an interesting one. It will actually increase follistatin levels, which may hinder myostatin levels. Myostatin is something in the body that basically ensures that your muscles do not grow too much. So inhibiting that will then, in theory, increase your muscles' ability to grow. If you ever see like those, I think they're like the Belgian blue cows, like those just big yoked cows. There's also, I think, some dogs, I think whippets. If you look like, I don't know, search up like jacked whippet or something like that. You'll see like these dogs and cows that are just like beyond muscular. And it's because they have genetic mutations to where like, I think their body either does not produce any or a dramatically reduced amount of myostatin. So epicatechin may hinder myostatin levels. And again, like some of these too, like if something is truly like, I'm not saying, hey, take epicatechin and 3 months from now you're going to have 15 pounds of muscle. Like if something is that effective, trust me, it's going to get outlawed. It's going to get banned, because that's just like an unreasonable advantage, and the FDA is going to come in and set their foot down. But with that said, epicatechin may hinder myostatin levels. It improves blood flow, which will also give you benefits for cardiovascular health and cognitive ability. And the beautiful thing is all three of those last three, beta ecdysterone, Cistanche, and epicatechin, can all be stacked together. So you can take them together at the same time. It's another reason why I really like Nootropics Depot, is like obviously it helps them sell more products, but they also, on each of these product pages, if you just search the product, go to the page and scroll down, they'll show you like what that supplement will stack well with, so you can really start to kind of do your own research and understand how you're using these things. So so that is the top 5 for muscle gain. Did you have anything you want to know? All right. Is there anything on these supplements that you want to?
Well,
the fat loss one you want to, right?
Yeah.
All right. So So fat loss, top 5. Number 1, Holly reminded me because we've been out of it for a couple months, but
The AMPK activator. I didn't know what any of this was before Andy told me about it, but I noticed a significant difference, especially around my tummy area.
yep.
I've been wanting to lose some weight this year, so I felt like I wasn't losing weight, and then I started this, and it felt like a week or two after I started taking it, everything started moving and felt better, and I just noticed a huge difference from there on out. So that, for me, I've seen huge results from.
Yeah.
So.
And so the AMPK activator is the name of a product. It's actually made by Life Extension, so it's not on the Nootropics Depot website, but AMPK activator is on Amazon. I feel like it's gone up in price. I feel like when we were first getting it, it was like, I don't know, $19 or $20. I feel like now it's more like $27 or $30, but inflation, everything's going up.
Yeah.
But AMPK activator is basically just 2 ingredients, if you will. One is something called hesperidin, and the other one is, is it gynostemma? I think that's in it. So if you don't want to get the product by itself, and this is honestly how I got into knowing what I know about supplements, is I would go to the store, like find the supplement or the product that I wanted, look at all the ingredients, and then go look up all the ingredients and figure out like, well, what's really doing what in this thing, instead of just getting like this shotgun approach to everything. So now we haven't gotten the AMPK activator directly because of the price increase, but you better believe we've got bulk hesperidin and the gynostemma. Is it gynostemma or is it the jangoling?
Yeah. How do you say it?
Yeah, start getting into Chinese medicine, like my pronunciation just completely drops. But look up AMPK activator, look up the ingredients on the back if you don't want to get it by itself and get those things. But it does anything that's going to help activate AMPK, and you'll see a trend in all of these fat loss ones, but anything that's going to boost AMPK will help you lose weight, because AMPK is kind of the yin to the yang of mTOR, and mTOR is what you want to activate if you're trying to grow muscle. AMPK is what you want to activate if you're trying to lose fat. Obviously, there's way more to that, and it's a gross oversimplification, but a product named AMPK activator is going to help you lose some body fat, especially around the midsection, which the second one, CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid. Yeah, I know. No, you're good. He's like flown by me a couple times too. I'm gonna like karate kid him and like grab him out of the air. But CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, is another one that specifically is suggested to specifically help weight loss around the midsection. There's a catch though, and that catch is that it's only really noticeable if you're an already leaner individual. So if you're trying to lose, 60, 70 pounds, it might not do a lot for you. But CLA does help reduce cortisol levels. So that's something that I'm going to come back to here in a second. The third one is actually a pair. And I've talked about this one in past episodes, but Alcar and ALA, which, Holly, how did you describe ALA? What did you say? When you think of alpha lipoic acid, what do you think?
Oh, the burning of your throat?
Yeah. She's like, what's the one that burns your throat? And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So Alcar is acetyl L-carnitine, or ALCAR, Alcar. And then ALA is alpha lipoic acid. Excuse me. Those both have a myriad of other benefits, and some people would argue the science as far as like what they can offer with actual weight loss. But the idea is that Alcar and ALA like work synergistically, and they help free up fat stores and mobilize stored fat into the bloodstream so that you can then utilize it. So Alcar and ALA are like a daily driver for me. She gets alpha lipoic acid every day. I do Alcar and ALA because they also have cognitive benefits, so mental energy. So the fourth one, ashwagandha, but specifically the KSM 66. That's just like the type of ashwagandha that it is. So if you just search, this is on Nootropics Depot's website, as are the Alcar and ALA. But KSM 66, ashwagandha is really good as far as like lowering stress and helping you cope with stress, not lowering stress, helping you cope with stress, and helping to like improve performance on a number of metrics. And so the recurring theme with some of these is lowering cortisol. Anything that's going to help lower cortisol and is going to help kind of like reduce inflammation, with all things being equal, meaning you're getting a good training routine, you're getting a good nutrition, you're getting good sleep, right? Something that's going to help lower cortisol if it's chronically elevated, and something that's going to help reduce inflammation if it's chronically elevated should help with fat loss as well. The last one in the fat loss category is exogenous ketones. This is something that I've used for years. 5-6 years at this point. They are, so exogenous just means you're taking it from outside and putting it into your body. Endogenous is like something that your body is creating inside. Exogenous ketones, they're, again, not diving into the science of all this because it's going to bore people, but it's basically just an alternative fuel source. It's not a carbohydrate. It's not a fat. And I know that one of the ways I'll use it is either during a longer workout, if I don't want to do a carb powder, or after a workout, I'll do like a scoop or two of whey protein with exogenous ketones. And it's subjective, but I feel like I tighten up and lean out really quickly when I'm using those. So that's something that you can get off of Amazon, but definitely look at the reviews because there are some crap quality ones out there. Lastly, as far as my top 5 supplements, I couldn't narrow it down to 5. I had to go with 6. These are all, like, I've given you muscle ones and fat loss ones, and I like all of those, and I use them kind of off and on throughout the week. But these 6 that I'm going to name off are really all like brain stuff. They're all supportive for like cognitive ability, creative thinking, memory, because that, like, I want to be physically, like, best as I can be, but mentally the best I can be too. So I got a lot of stuff that I need to remember throughout the course of the day and week and month and years. So my top 6, I would say, like, the number 1 supplement, hands down above all else, that it was like one of the first nootropics I ever got into, and it definitely helped mood and outlook on life and everything, is uridine monophosphate. So again, uridine monophosphate, uridine, uridine, monophosphate. That's part of something called the Mr. Happy Stack, and that definitely worked for me. Not everybody, it's not going to work for everybody, but like the Mr. Happy Stack at the time that I found it was uridine monophosphate with some fish oil to get that DHEA, EPA that we talked about earlier, and a B vitamin. I think now there might be like vitamin E in it as well. If you just search Mr. Happy Stack on the internet, you'll find it. But uridine monophosphate, it seemed like it really improved my mood. It improved my want to do things, improved memory. So like it's something that still to this day I'll use a couple times throughout the week. Second one would be magnesium threonate. So this is magnesium bound to threonine or threonate molecule, but basically it allows that magnesium to get across the blood-brain barrier. So it's a type of magnesium that, well, you like that word,
yeah.
Don't you, that phrase, blood-brain barrier. We got history with that.
Yeah.
I came across those pictures.
Yeah.
So super long story short. Anytime I went to GNC when our buddy used to own it, he has since sold it, and we don't really go in there anymore, but a buddy of ours owned GNC, and anytime I talked about blood-brain barrier, he was like, the blood-brain barrier! And he was like, there's the blood-brain barrier! And he would just like make a big deal out of it. So one day after about a year or two of this, and we knew that he was like selling the store, I think we knew at that point, but either way, I made some pictures and just like 3 pictures of me and Holly, and I put like blood-brain barrier on each picture and like put them on the store's windows before he opened the store to kind of surprise him with it. I think it was his birthday too.
Yeah.
So magnesium threonate, it's magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it does show that it helps with memory, creativity. That's one that you seem to enjoy, and I know if she's like, hey, give me that one again, it's working.
Right.
Lion's mane is another one. That's a mushroom that has a number of benefits for the brain. Again, for me, I noticed like increase in creativity, neuroplasticity, so like my ability to learn more. Lion's mane is definitely high on that list. Again, I'm sorry that I'm not taking super deep dives in any of these, but I feel like I should kind of keep it surface level. Solbutamine, or as Holly calls it,
Submarine.
Sulbutamine is Sulbutamiamine. Sulbutamine. What that is basically a form of thiamine, so vitamin B1, that also more easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. What I noticed with sulbutamine, and even though it tastes like
Horrible.
absolute ass, we get powder and everything. You don't have to get powder. You can get all of this in capsule form. But sulbutamine, I notice for sure, if I know that I'm going to be, if I have the time to sit down and read and study, sulbutamine, if I take that, it's like all I want to do is sit down, read, and study. And like that's one where I can just like take it, and I'm, an hour after taking it, I'm good to like sit there and read for hours and hours and hours. It's got other benefits too, but we'll keep it simple. Number 5, unfortunately, you're gonna have a hard time getting this. You can still, I stocked up on it because it's no longer available on Nootropics Depot, but phenylpiracetam. So again, phenylpiracetam, I feel like I don't need to spell this one, but just for shits and giggles, PHENYLPIRACETAM, phenylpiracetam. So this is one of a member of the racetam families. They're basically compounds, like they're like the granddaddy OGs of nootropics, and anything really nootropic is going to be something that helps with your brain performance that does not have detrimental effects. That's like the classic definition of a nootropic. Phenylpiracetam was always my favorite racetam, and there's, probably like a dozen or more of them. But phenylpiracetam was always my favorite, and I feel like you liked it as well.
Oh, yeah.
It just really helped with verbal fluency, and I believe it is like a dopamine, like I don't know if it's a reuptake inhibitor, but I think it affects dopamine levels. So it's like it gives you better verbal fluency, but it also encourages you to, again, like read, study, be creative. Some of the racetams are better used for like just studying, and you might not be very creative on it, but phenylpiracetam was like kind of like a do-all for me. And that's, like I said, I stocked up on it, so I've got some in the cupboard that'll last us like a couple of years. The last one this is my bonus number 6. She actually mentioned this and I forgot all about it. Is one called agmatine sulfate. So agmatine, AGMATINE sulfate. So this is one that we'll typically take before going to bed. And again, it's got a host of benefits to it. I just felt like my face was way close to the camera. I feel like I was like way up on it. But agmatine sulfate, taking it at night will help boost like positive outlook. You'll just wake up in a better mood. You get more restful sleep. This is one, if you search it on Nootropics Depot and you go to like the benefits and like uses section, some things have like 2 or 3. Agmatine's got like 7 or 8 things that it does on there. So and I see a lot of people on the interwebs, especially on Reddit, that talk about enjoying agmatine and the benefits, like coming out of depression and like even getting over addiction and stuff like that with it. So so that would be my top 6, just personally. Again, all brain stuff: uridine monophosphate, magnesium threonate, lion's mane, sulbutamine, phenylpiracetam, and agmatine sulfate. So we got 2 more questions, right? Yep. So one more anonymous.
It says, okay, settle the debate. Which cardio is better, fasted or not fasted? So much science to back up both.
So I feel like I've already spoken on this a little bit throughout the episode, and I would agree 100% that there is so much science to back up both. So what I would say, this is another one kind of like back with the spot reducing, where if you say like fasted cardio is going to get you weight loss, you'll have people jump all over your shit and say there's no evidence, all the science is like against that, doesn't prove it at all. And it's kind of like, well, who's right? Because I know that there are multiple like bodybuilding coaches that preach this stuff like it's the gospel. One in particular, Hani Rambod, who's also known as like the pro maker, because he consistently puts guys on the stage to win like the big bodybuilding, like the Olympias, the big body competitions. He is huge on fasted cardio. But again, this is where like context is king, because I prefer fasted cardio, but if I'm going to go do like a CrossFit WOD, like I'm only going to go so long before I just like completely tank out, right? Or hopefully not stroke out. But so if your cardio is of a lower intensity, so you're going for a walk or a jog if that's lower intensity, or if you're getting on the stair mill at a lower intensity, being at that lower intensity is going to encourage fat loss. As that intensity goes up, you're now, there goes the gnat again, you're now, as the intensity goes up, you're encouraging more of a glycolytic or carbohydrate usage, glucose usage. So I would say fasted cardio, I would go out on a limb on this, and I don't know, 5 years from now, maybe I'll come back and be like, I did not say that. I completely take it back. But to me, fasted cardio, I prefer it. I feel better when I do it. I don't like doing cardio with anything on my stomach, even if it's like a shake or something. It just doesn't sit well with me. I feel like you feel the same way. But as far as settling the debate, I would say I side on fasted cardio. Whether the evidence out there says it's a better way to lose fat or not, I don't know. I just like, excuse me, going back to the glycogen storages, if once that liver glycogen is depleted, your body gets a signal of like, hey, we've got to refill that. So one would think that the liver glycogen is depleted. Body says we need to refill it. Body says we have stored fat, possibly a little bit of muscle tissue as well, right? So it's going to break down those tissues to then refill that liver glycogen. So if you're then also putting the demand, again, this is where the intensity, I think, theoretically plays a role into it, because if your liver glycogen is depleted, your body needs an additional fuel source. It doesn't have that liver glycogen to go through. So if you're doing a lower intensity cardio workout, again, something where you're not like at a 8 out of 10 intensity, it's more like a 6 out of 10 intensity, you're encouraging like not only the mobilization of fat stores, like getting the fat into the bloodstream, you're also encouraging the use of the fat. And that's where it's like people kind of train in that garbage zone where they don't want to go slower and lighter because they don't feel like they're doing anything, even though that's where you're burning your fat at. And they don't push hard enough to make it more of a glycolytic like benefit from like a hard workout, right? So in theory, I would say if I'm doing my cardio in the morning, I haven't had anything to eat before I went to bed, and I've got good fasted sleep, and my workout is on a lower end of the intensity scale, I would think that that's going to burn more fat. But if you're an individual who is also fasted, but let's say you're overly stressed and you're doing CrossFit workouts 5-6 days a week in boot camp, and your job is killing you and all that, and cortisol is off the charts, you should not be doing, in my opinion, like you shouldn't be doing a bunch of fasted workouts, right? You want to get that cortisol down because your cortisol is already skyrocketing through most of the time. So, and again, this is what we'll talk about next week in the stress episode. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. Like, I think fasted cardio is better. Again, may not be on, everyone's radar there. But
right. Yeah. All right. Last one, saving the best for last. Big Al.
All right.
So just so you know, like these are my answers.
I got it.
And that's the question. All right. And I want you to read this all the way through because I want to hear you say this last bit. All right. What did Alan hit us with?
So Alan said, can you please explain the effects of alcohol when trying to add lean muscle or lose body fat? Is there a benefit of clear with no additives versus brown or wine? By the way, sipping a tequila as I type this. Cheers, biatch.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Cheers, biatch. So great question, as all of these were. But let's bring it home. So, Alan, in the question, like you just said, is there a benefit of clear with no additives versus brown or wine? This is one, if you search it, because doing a little digging, you'll find it's kind of like the fasted cardio. You see like, well, clear is better. No, but dark is better. I've always kind of, without doing research, I've always been like, well, clear is better. It's better to have clear liquor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I would still lean that way. The consensus that I found was that like clear liquor, obviously, like you said, contains fewer impurities, fewer allergens, and possibly fewer calories, right? Depending on it. But you also have to look at like dark liquors, like wine, right? Well, I guess wine's not a liquor, but I'm not, clearly I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But dark liquors may contain more antioxidants, so you kind of have to weigh those two things out. If I were to put my money on one, though, I would say probably clear with none of the impurities, allergens, and potentially fewer calories too. If you're an individual who's like drinking beer, drinking wine, you're getting a lot of extra calories, a lot of, I think in the wine, like extra sugars. Like when I did drink, I was like a smearing off, wild grape and like Mike's Hard, just like the foo drinks. But so I'm not only getting all the calories, I'm getting, or not only getting all the alcohol, I'm getting a bunch of sugars and calories on top of it too, which is why I felt like shit for days on end after drinking. So, but more to the point, so that first part of the question, explaining the effects of alcohol when trying to add lean muscle or lose body fat. So from PubMed, these are some things I want you to consider. So PubMed, obviously, if you're looking for like actual science, what does it say? PubMed, NIH, like some of the best places to go. From PubMed, alcohol consumption decreases the use of glucose and amino acids by skeletal muscle, adversely affecting the energy supply and impairing the metabolic process during exercise. So there's a few other things I want to go into, but what did you say was the one thing that you did learn from why am I hitting enter over here? wrong computer.
That your body is going to prioritize getting the toxin out of your body first before it does anything else. So your body, needs to clear out things and recover and heal itself and do all these different processes. And it's going to halt all of that so it can funnel out the toxins that you put in your body from all the alcohol. So you're making it harder on your body to just be healthy.
Yep.
So that is one thing that I learned that stuck with me.
Yep.
So.
Well, and that's the one thing I've always said in the past when it comes to this is like your body prioritizes getting the toxin out. So everything else stops, right? So it's like in the past working at the gym when, like it's a revolving turnstile and people are coming in one after the other training them. I do not miss those days, but you'd have, Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, you'd have people come in that were hungover from Friday and Saturday night before. And like, cool, they showed up, but it's like, they're reeking of alcohol. And it's like really all they're kind of doing in theory is like burning through the alcohol that they had the night before. I mean, I don't know if it takes that long, but if as you're working out, your sweat smells like vodka, it's probably not doing a whole lot for your health. Maybe you're, I don't know, speeding up the process of breaking that stuff down. But I do know, I keep wanting to hit enter to clear that out. I do know that just a few things that alcohol does to your body. And when you understand how the body works and the conditions that need to be present to gain muscle or to lose fat or to potentially try to do both at the same time, when you understand these things of what alcohol does to the body, you can see how basically like it's shooting all of those in the foot. And there was even an interesting article that I came across that didn't bother clicking on it, but it was like people who work out more tend to drink more. And it's just like, where did they get that information from? Maybe it's true. I don't know. But so these things, like these are effects of alcohol. Your inflammation in your body goes up, right? I mean, that's like just all the way across the board, right? Like, dehydration, you just feel like shit. Like we've said a second ago, proper fuel utilization goes down. So your body's not able to use the carbohydrates or fats that it would for the workout because it's too busy trying to get the alcohol out of the body. Not to mention the micronutrients that the increased alcohol, like the increased use of micronutrients that alcohol and the removal of it puts on your body. So you're putting yourself into like deficiencies there. Your gut health is compromised because like the healthy, and I know they have like probiotic beers. I don't know how that would play into this now. I think some Japanese psychopath scientists came up with that. But like clearly alcohol, tequila, any of it, like it's not going to be good for your gut health. And if you've listened to any of the episodes in the past, you know how important your gut health is to optimal functioning. So, excuse me, it will also impact your hormone levels, which is partly tied to the gut health, I'm sure. And if you're trying to build muscle or burn fat, you don't want to negatively impact your hormone levels. And it also impairs ATP production. And ATP is kind of that, quote unquote, energy currency of the cell. So if you're impairing your body's ability to use and produce ATP, then you're going to reduce your ability to perform during the workout and recover during the workout and have more strength during the workout or more cardiovascular power during the workout. So, and that's just a super short list that I put together because I knew we were going to be like kind of going over an hour on these Q's and A's. So just that super, super short list, what I would say is like, you're going to be able to get to some level of health if you're drinking on a consistent basis. But if you're trying to get into any level of, I want to say elite, and elite, sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to be elite. I just want to look really good. I would consider that elite. If you want to look really good, like that's still elite for you, right? I'm not saying are you trying to like be on the CrossFit stage or the Olympia stage. I just mean if you're trying to get yourself to some level of like, holy shit, when people see you, alcohol doesn't really have a place in that, right? Or at least not consistent alcohol every single weekend. There's been, how many dozens of times have you seen me like doing client phone calls with people and talking about, well, if you could just quit drinking for a couple weeks, I think you would see, and I've had people like, I don't know why light bulbs didn't go off before, but it's the clients who, make good progress and then Friday and Saturday they drink. And these were, some of them are like, mid-20s guys that like should be able to like handle this and metabolize it, but they're drinking like on a Friday or Saturday and their body is still trying to recuperate come like Monday, Tuesday. And then like by the time Wednesday and Thursday rolls around, they get like 1 or 2 good days of actual quality workouts. And then it's back to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And sure as shit, as soon as they cut it out, like the plateaus like disappeared and they just started cranking out because you're not sending your body mixed signals. You have to think like, what are you doing on a 24-hour schedule, 7 days a week? What are you telling your body? And that's, again, coming from 2+ decades of me with drugs and alcohols and food issues. Like, I would work out really hard in the morning and then party really hard at night. And like I just never got past a certain point while I was doing all of that stuff because I was telling my body, hey, I want to be really healthy and I want to look good and I want to feel good. Nah, I'm just kidding. I want to get all drunk and stupid and high. So you have to really think about what signals what stimuli are you giving your body? What specific adaptations to impose demand are you trying to bring it full circle that are you trying to get across to your body? So, all right, that is all we have for the day. An 11 pack of questions, I believe, altogether. Holly, any questions?
I have no questions.
Damn it, woman. All right, so we're going to do a Q&A session with just you and questions. Holly's question time. So that is it. That's all we got for the episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening again. Please like, share, subscribe. Give us those 5-star ratings if you would so kindly. We would greatly appreciate it. I'm floored that I see the podcast growing. I mean, it's like I'm hoping that it would, but it's so cool to see those plays and views and listens going up and the subscriber count on YouTube going up. And it's really cool. And I'm grateful that I get to do this for a living. So, and I get to do it with this amazing person next to me. This is my human being. This is my ride or die. So, thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate every second that you dedicate to listening to the words that come out of my mouth and her mouth. And like I said, episode number 20, we're going to be talking about how stress affects your body. And then episode 21, we're going to be talking about how we personally try to mitigate those effects, the things that we do on a daily and weekly basis to mitigate that stress. Because again, 3 a.m. to 7 p.m, go.
Yeah.
Stress is a real thing. It's there. So, but that's all we got for today's episodes, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Have a kick-ass week as I choke on myself. Yeah, what you got?
Make it a great week.
Make it a great week. There we go. Thank you, everybody. We love you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Later.